welcome to another Marvel Crisis Protocol unboxing. So today, as you can clearly see, we are unboxing Drax and Ronan the Accuser. So Drax isn't his full name, and I'm not just talking about in Guardians of the Galaxy, the film, when he's known as Drax the Destroyer. In the comics, many moons ago, back in 1973, Drax was actually originally a human known as Arthur Douglas, whose family was attacked and killed by the supervillain Thanos. So that has remained the same. So in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, Drax is on a killing spree, basically, and nothing is going to get in his way until he gets to Thanos, and he's going to kill him as well, because he gave the orders to kill his family, and yeah, he's pretty annoyed about it. But in the comics, he was human, and Kronos, which is another god, has actually taken Arthur's spirit and placed it in a brand new body known as Drax the Destroyer. So he was a bit more tough in the comics as well, because not only was he a skilled swordsman, brilliant hand-to-hand like he is in the films, he has a lot better strength, a lot better reflexes, things like that. He has flight and the ability to cast energy bolts from his hands as well, which is slightly different from the films. But, you know, if you're going to go up against Thanos, things like that, you're going to need more than just blades, right? So, I don't think this model is exceptionally good looking, and I don't know who painted the models on the front of this box, but it's not the paint scheme I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to lean towards more of the films, so certainly not a green like that. But we'll see. We'll see what I'll come out with. I don't think that the pose is extraordinary, but then Drax isn't exactly one for like a flourish or anything like that. He is what he is. He's just a brick. He's just going to keep coming at you. You know, there's no finesse to the guy at all. So I do understand the pose. And he's not exactly a nice looking guy anyway, is he? He's not exactly like Ronan on the front cover there. You know, he's got a nice outfit, he's got a fancy hammer, you know, he looks a bit more classy. Whereas this particular model looks a bit meh. It could be any bald-headed model with two knives. Very much like a D&D character, I guess, D&D miniature possibly. But then we'll get to Ronan the Accuser. A little bit of fluff about him. So, of course, there is fluff on the back of the box, if you want to read that. And like I was saying, Kronos did create Drax to kill Thanos. But yeah, it didn't say too much more than that, basically, on the back of the box. So, you know, if you wanted a bit more fluff, I'm bringing it. Whereas Ronan the Accuser, they pretty much nailed the back of the box perfectly. Up until that moment, yes, he was a supreme public accuser of the Kree Empire. So the Kree Empire is a completely alien race, known as the Kree. Oh, you didn't see that coming, did you? And this guy started his journey in the comics way back when, 1967. When he first appeared with the Fantastic Four, funny enough. But this guy has been against, obviously, the Guardians, Fantastic Four. He's even, after getting defeated by the Guardians, like in the films, he becomes a bit more noble, realises he's on the wrong side of things, and he actually does join various superhero groups as well, and eventually, in fact, even marries a Inhuman called Crystal. So she is a princess of the Inhuman royal family as well. So he's not always a bad guy. There is honour with this guy as well. So even when he was a bad guy, you know, he's not just going to like smack someone in the back of the head and kill him outright. You know, he does want a fight, a fair fight, and he does think he obviously is better than most people. And like in the Guardians film, you know, one-on-one or multiple-on-one when he's got the gem, he is, you know, he's quite the adversary, and like I said, it's all about pride with this guy as well. So when Star-Lord asks him for a dance off. It's not the kind of boss battle he's thinking, you know. But yeah, the back of the box did get it right, but it's not as in depth as. I mean, you could literally sum that up in one sentence. Kronos made Drax to defeat Thanos, you know. But hey ho, hey ho. So in this box, what do we get? What do we get? We get Drax, Ronan. Would be pretty pants if we didn't. 2 bases, which I'm sure there'll be more bases in there as well because there's 2 different sizes, so there's probably going to be a lot of bases. We have 2 character stat cards, 2 team tactics cards, 1 Infinity Gem card, and 10 tokens. So at this moment, these cards have not been updated, so they're still the original cards. Let's have a look in the box. So the contents of the box. Like I said, Drax is a very simple creature, and he's rather simple to build. So front and back on his pants, front and back on his chest, 2 arms, a small tactical rock, obviously, have to have a tactical rock, 1 head choice, so you don't really need many instructions with that guy. Not massive amounts of detail. I mean, you can see the kind of markings on his torso, which is okay. It's nothing amazing. And then we have Ronan himself, which has a bit more detail, like on the chest. I mean, Drax is very, very basic looking in the films anyway, and the comics. Ronan, it's got that large 2-handed hammer, and in the instructions, just in case you need them, Drax is pretty easy. Ronan's not exactly difficult either, but just in case, rather clear instructions. Alright, there's no numbers or anything like that, but there's no parts in this kit I would say you would get confused with any other. And like I guessed, you have more bases than you know what to do with. I'm thinking eventually when I get Blob, all these cups and cans and things like that that I've saved, the tacos and stuff from Deadpool, I'm just going to put it on one huge base. And Blob's just going to be standing in the middle of, yeah, quite a bit. So, cards. Let's start with Drax, shall we? So I'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, so Drax. So he costs 3 points, which is pretty good really for what he can do. He is 6 health, medium movement, and size 2. Even though he is made of pure muscle pretty much, he's still only weight and size of 2. His defenses are 3, 3, and 2, probably for obvious reasons on the Old Mystic. Okay, so then we get to his builder. So it costs 0. It's 5 dice, range 2. No surprising, it's blades. After his attack is resolved, this character gains power equal to the amount of damage dealt. Standard. If the target character has the bleed special condition, you may reroll 2 attack dice during this attack. And on a wild, you guessed it, bleed. So it might be pretty good with Blade as well, because Blade throwing bleeds out there, and Blade also gets bonuses from bleed. So those two could stack quite nicely. Then we have Headbutt. Headbutt, range 2. It'd be pretty impressive if it was more than that. And it's still pretty impressive, a Headbutt at range 2. It's 4 dice, it costs 2, and on a wild there is Stun. If the target character is size 3 or less, after its attack is resolved, it may be pushed from this character small. So size 3, fairly impressive. I mean, those big chunky ones like Hulk, for example, obviously it's not going to have no effect on, but it's still quite nice because it's an auto bake-in. And for those who don't know, Stun is every time you would gain more power, and let's say you've done an attack that does 2 damage, you gain 2 power. it limits you back down to 1. Okay, so a minimum of 1 every time if you're suffering from stun. So it's pretty nice. It's not game breaking, but it's pretty nice. If you've got someone out there that could do a load of attacks, got a great builder, put it on them and they don't think twice. Titan Killer is the next one. So what do we have for Titan Killer? It's a range 2, so this guy, all of his attacks are range 2. Short little T-Rex like arms. It costs 3 power, and it's only 3 dice, so it's going to be pretty damn good. 3 dice, 3 power, doesn't sound very good, right? Add 1 dice to this attack for every damage token on this character. Wow. So if you've got someone out there like Hulk, and he's taking an absolute battering, yeah, you might want to throw this guy at him. Let's say he's got an extra 15 dice. It's pretty sweet. And on a wild, you have a throw. Before damage is dealt, if the target character is size 4 or less, i.e. Hulk, this character may throw the target character away small. It's good because, alright, you've got to rely on the wild, but size 4 or less, loads of characters, in fact all the characters that I know of, size 4 or less, and it's before damage is dealt. So the Hulk, let's say you do take him out with 15 dice or whatever, you can then throw it, then the damage is dealt. So he's going to be thrown into probably another one of his team. Brilliant idea, brilliant idea. So initially you look at it, range 2, 3 dice, okay, it's better be 3, right? But no, it costs 3 power. And to start reading the rules, that's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. So you're not going to be taking out someone who's not injured with this attack. You're certainly not going to take out someone who's only got like maybe 2 on them, because it's 5 dice. And if you're doing that, you might as well use his builder. But yeah, not bad so far, not bad so far. I mean, defensively so far, I don't think he's going to get anything defensively, because this is Drax, right? He's pretty narrow-minded, pretty single-focused. So next we have the start of the Superpowers. The Destroyer costs 3 power. Choose an interactive terrain feature or enemy character, both size 3 or less, and within range 2, and throw it small. So not a massive range, I suppose, but if you're moving up to an objective and someone is there, push them off the objective as an end of an activation kind of thing, at the end of a turn, when people are about to score. That's pretty nice. So you don't have to fish for those wilds. Yes, it costs 3, but it's size 3 or less, so that's a good chunk of terrain, good chunk of characters as well. Driven by Vengeance, which is very thematic. Doesn't cost any power. When this character is damaged by an enemy attack, you may use this superpower. Place a Vengeance token on or move an existing Vengeance token to an enemy character that has caused the effect. When this character targets a character that has a Vengeance token with an attack, this character rolls 3 additional attack dice. After this attack is resolved, the Vengeance token is removed. This character can only have 1 Vengeance token in play at any time. So let's say Hulk has hit him. He puts a Vengeance token on him. It's 3 additional dice. Hulk's taking an absolute pasting. So he's going to use Titan Killer. He's got 15 wounds on him, let's say. So 15 dice plus the 3 for Titan Killer plus the 3 of that. 21 dice. That's pretty nice. Put a Wing in it token on him. This guy's going to do some work. It really is. So it's a bit like Taskmaster in regards like that. If you hit him, you really want to make sure you've taken him out, because he gets some serious buffs. So, I mean, he's not going to be massively difficult to take out, especially if you're using Mystic. But then again, he's only a 3-pointer. So you can understand why his defenses aren't great, because if a 3-pointer can potentially hit this hard, he's got to be squishy. He's got to be squishy. 6 health isn't the end of the world. Pick on his Mystic, he's having a bad time. Last but no means least, here's a passive ability, I Can Take It. When this character would suffer damage from enemy attack, reduce the amount of damage by 1 to a minimum of 1, which is always nice. Love Rogue, love playing Rogue all the time, and that ability has saved her skin so many times. Same with like Iron Man, Who else do I use that has that? Omega Red. I love Omega Red, purely because I'm a kid of the 90s, so I think the model's great. But reducing damage to a minimum 1 is always nice. So, someone does 2 damage to you, that's 1. You know? I like that. I like that. So let's say he takes 1 chip damage, and then you put a Vengeance token on somebody, and then you just go to town. Vengeance token is great, because it doesn't cost any power at all, or you can only have 1 Vengeance token in play, and it disappears after you do an attack. So, presumably, if he doesn't do an attack, and that character's taken out, the Vengeance token is gone? Does he still put it on someone else? That's a question. Yeah, because it says after this attack is resolved, a Vengeance token is removed. So, you would put it in play as a reaction anyway. Presumably when a model's dead, it returns to you. But it literally states on the card, yeah, you roll 3 additional attack dice, but after this attack is resolved, Vengeance token is removed. So I'm assuming that's the only time it's removed, unless there's been a clear up, an FAQ or something. So on his other side, still 6 health, still the same as defenses. He looks exactly the same. So, small push, larger throw, gets very, very angry if he takes damage. Vengeance tokens, additional dice. Drax looks so, so good. Like I say, it's a shame really about the model, possibly. I mean, the box art, I'm not going to paint him that colour. Maybe if he was a bit more cinematic, leaping off a rock or something. But that's not really Drax. He's just going to walk slowly at you and stab you kind of guy. Next we have Ronan the Accuser. So I'll zoom in a little bit more because I was a bit far out last time. Far out. So he is a 4-pointed model. 6 health, medium movement, size 3. Suppose he is wielding a flipping metal hammer and he's a slightly larger guy. So his builder is a strike as well. Range 2, 5 dice, 0 power, so exactly the same as Blades with Drax. After his attack is resolved, this character gains power equal to the amount of damage dealt. He has a wild throw, so before damage is dealt, which is always the nice way around, you can throw a size 4 or less away small. So 4 is massive. 4 is brilliant. Yeah, you're relying on that wild, but if you need to get Hulk off that objective, why not, eh? It's pretty good. I mean, it's not game breaking, but throwing models is always good. 3 throws are great. I know you've got to fish for those wilds, but he's only throwing short, the small movement. So you can throw him into a piece of terrain, into another model, doing extra damage. It's pretty cool, but you really are relying on that wild. Next we have a ranged 4, and this ceases to be physical from now on. This is now energy. So Drax, as you can imagine, was all physical, because he's just a mountain of muscle. So it's 5 dice, 0 power. Wild, it has a push. So size 4 or less. Pushed away from this character. Small. And it's once again before damage is dealt. Always good, always good. If this attack deals damage, after the attack is resolved, the target character gets the shock special condition. So it's an auto bake-in. So shock is the model suffering shock rolls 1 less dice when they are attacking. It's nice. It's always nice. And it's baked in, so you don't have to fish for that wild, but there it is. Next we have Kree Justice. Very thematic, once again, well done. Range 2, 8 dice, 4 power, If this attack deals damage, after the attack is resolved, the character gains stagger and stun. That's great. So it's just got to do damage, and with 8 dice, that's a pretty good chance. Stun, we've covered already. Stagger is so frustrating. You have to, as your first action, when you activate a model that's suffering with stagger, have to spend an action to remove that stagger. Horrible. So halves what you're going to do your turn, and you've got to do it immediately. Dangerous stuff. If you do get a wild, it is explosive. Before damage is dealt, other enemy characters within range 2 of this character suffers 1 auto damage. That's always cool. If people clump up, brilliant. But that's not really what you're using Kree Justice for. This guy is an absolute boss. 8 dice is always good. Especially if you're giving them winging it, re-rolling 2 dice, making it a little bit more cost effective, a little bit more accurate. Next he has Judgment, which is the start of his superpowers. It costs 2 power. When this character or an allied character within range 3 of this character is damaged by an enemy effect, after the effect is resolved, you may use this superpower. The character that caused the effect gains the Judgment special condition. Judgment is really nice. That's the opposite of stun, basically. So whenever they take damage and they would gain power, they only gain 1, which is really nice. Notice it says when this character or an allied character within range 3 is damaged by an enemy effect. So range 3 is pretty juicy, considering this guy's got a fairly large base. So it's covering a good chunk of the board. And it doesn't have to be on him. So as long as he's near his party, they suffer damage. That's nice, because the model suffering damage is within range 3, not the enemy. So if the enemy is range 5 away from that model, they still somehow suffer the Judgment special condition. The Accuser. So this is 0 power. If an enemy effect would cause this character to be dazed or KO'd after the effect is resolved, you may use this superpower. This character immediately advances small and makes 1 attack targeting that enemy character that caused the effect. Then this character is dazed or KO'd. That's pretty nice. So you're going to wipe this guy out. You're going to make damn sure you can take the hit back. And that's even when he's dazed or KO'd. That's pretty nice. It's a shame he doesn't have an attack like Venom that can heal him. Because if that was the case, alright, you've technically dazed me, then I move, then I smack you, then I heal, then I'm not dazed. That would be pretty nice. But very broken. So on the other side, he looks exactly the same. So one thing I haven't discussed is he is a gem bearer, and he has immunity to poison. So gem bearer power, I'll talk about that straight away. Here we have the Infinity Gem power. So it costs 1 additional point. So Ronan goes from a 4-pointer to a 5-pointer if you wanted to use this. And remember, if he's assigned to this, he has to be fixed to it in your lists. So you can't just have Ronan and a power gem and then use it whenever you want to fill in that 1 extra point, because that would be really handy, right? He is then a 5-pointer fixed in your list. No more, no less. So what does a power gem do? So a power gem, during the power phase, this character gains 2 additional power. Shocker, right? Power gem, who knew? Instead of the normal 1 for having an infinity gem. Which means, if Ronan's getting a 3 power at the beginning of each turn, he's more likely to get off his Kree Justice and his Judgment. But that's the only thing he uses power for. So is he really worth using him as a 5 or keeping him as a 4? Because in the first turn, are you really likely to get within range 3 of somebody to use Kree Justice? Possibly not. Judgment may happen though. Judgment's pretty fun. Throwing that out as a special condition. In the first turn, yeah. And then obviously the following turn you have 1 left over, which means you have 4 power which is enough for Creed Justice if you're close enough to somebody. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I have not actually used any Infinity Gems myself yet, but I will try him both ways and see what he's like. I mean, it's always nice to have that guaranteed extra 2 power a turn, isn't it? So that is the power card. So then it comes to Team Tactics cards. We have No Matter the Cost. Now I have seen this one quite a bit being used, but never with Ronan or Drax. Generally I've seen it in like Black Order teams and things like that. So it's unaffiliated, it's a reactive card. When a character declares an attack action during their activation, it may suffer 1 to 3 damage to play this card. Reduce the power of the attack by the amount of damage suffered. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. So it's a way of getting those attacks off that you really feel like you need to get off. Maybe to win the game. You know, you haven't got much health left on a character possibly. You need to take him off that objective or something like that. Or else your opponent's just going to walk away with it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, it's basically Scott's ability, team ability, Cyclops that is. Reducing the power, I guess. But you're doing it to yourself. You're damaging yourself. Reduce the power. Yeah, it's okay. If you really positively have to, then that is a good fallback card. Okay, then you have Unearthly Rage. So it's unaffiliated. It is active. During a character's activation, it may spend 2 power to play this card. This activation, if the character is within 2 of 2 or more enemy characters or making its next attack, add 2 dice to its attack roll. So basically, if you are surrounded, it'd be nice if you were playing Drax. And Drax is getting a load of dice anyway. Play this, brilliant. I mean, sometimes you do get picked on. You do have 2 or more enemies around you, brilliant. So use it in those situations where you've got probably quite a wide list going against you. Maybe you're playing, a bit of a tall list, like a list with, let's say, Magneto, Juggernaut, and Drax. You know, fairly expensive models. So you know your opponent's got more models than you. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's not game breaking. There are other ways to get 2 dice extra from an attack row out there. I'd rather have something that can stop you from being moved or stop a building being thrown at you or something like that, rather than just 2 extra dice. Because you can't rely on those 2 extra dice. Whereas if you have a card that says this happens, then you can definitely rely on that. But yeah, not too shabby. Not too shabby. So the tokens in this set, you have your bleed, because obviously Drax can throw out a bleed. You've got staggers, stuns, shocks, Drax's own vengeance token. Ronan the Accuser. You have 3 Ronan Accuser tokens. Not entirely sure what that's all about. Maybe it's his version of Judgment, possibly. So you can put that on somebody. Because normally there is actually a token for Judgment. Still. Hey ho. Ronan's pretty face on a token. I'm going to throw that down as a Judgment token instead. But yes, been playing a little bit of Guardians recently. Thought I would add a bit more to the team. I do like the look of Ronan. You're kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know, if someone hits you, you can hit back. He can hit fairly hard anyway with his 8 dice, which is pretty nice. Throwing Judgment out there is always good. And I think he's got pushes, throws, things like that. He's not bad. He's not bad. Maybe not the first 4 threat I would possibly bring. And like I said, I'm not entirely sure if a 5 threat really is the right way to go about him. Yeah, he's going to have more power. And he's going to do like Creed Justice and Judgment pretty much all the time. But it's not the kind of thing you're going to do. I mean, Creed Justice is 8 dice, don't get me wrong. And it does give stagger and stun automatically, which is wicked. And stagger really does mess up people's days. Whereas Drax for 3 points, I think he has a place, you know? I think he can really do some work. He gets bonuses against targets that are bleeding. So if you've got, let's say you got Zemo, which would be great in Guardians, because you're throwing, re-rolling 2 dice with wing in it, and then you're re-rolling a dice with Strategic Genius. Well, Zemo's just good in everything. And then you got this guy nearby. So let's say you've made someone bleed with Zemo. Drax comes along with blades. May re-roll 2 attack dice because someone's bleeding as well. So it's 5 dice. Let's say you've got Vengeance on there. So that 5 dice goes to 8 dice. You're re-rolling 2 because they're bleeding. You're re-rolling 1 because of Strategic Genius. You may even re-roll 2 because of winging it. That's pretty reliable. That's pretty reliable. 8 dice, and it didn't cost you any power. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, Titan Killer is brilliant. So if you're going against some big models and they've taken an absolute pasting, he's going to finish them off as well. So I do rate Drax. I don't think the paint scheme on the front of the box is brilliant. I'm hoping to try something different so he looks more like the ones at the actual films. But yeah, should be an interesting box. Should be an interesting box. And like I said, Drax is great in Guardians. But anything that gives bleed conditions or re-rolls, things like that, I think he'd be pretty good in as well. I just haven't seen him on the table. Not in my local meta. I mean, I went to Element Games at the beginning of the year, and I did see Ronan for the first time. But I don't see him that often. They're not what I would call strong characters at the moment. Like Malekith, you're seeing pretty much everywhere. But it might just be because it's the new hotness. I mean, Zola and Strucker, quite a few places I've seen. Certainly the Sentinels. And it's not necessarily because they're so strong. It's because they're just new models. So that's always a consideration when you're thinking about the meta. Right. Thank you very much for listening to me waffle on yet again. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You deserve a medal. And hopefully you'll see these guys painted up soon. And doing some battle reports. Cool. Stay safe, everyone. Catch you in the next video.